How is everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to another episode of Boys in the Zone. This is probably going to be a quicker show tonight. And let me get this. Um, sorry, get that up there. Probably going to be a quicker show tonight. Just been really busy in the process of starting a new job tomorrow. And thus, I did want to get on here and just talk a little bit of Cowboys football and talk about what the hell we witnessed on last Sunday. So, Cowboys obviously fall to 1-2, 31-14 final score. Probably should have been more than that if the Cowboys just run it when they're in the end zone, and if Joe Milton just doesn't. Well, I guess maybe there'd be some incentive to play if we would have scored again for Dak. So maybe Milton doesn't even get in the game. But regardless, yeah, 31-14. That's just that's not how I anticipated it going. I really thought that this team would beat the Bears pretty handedly, knowing how many holes they had on defense and what they were giving up yards wise. Now, I will say the film on Dak is pretty good. Really, nine incompletions. A few of those are drops. Of course, the interception that we just could not have from George Pickens, and then the other interception, fourth down. Like I hate that it's on Dak's stat sheet, but realistically, the game was over at that point. So I can't even be too disappointed at Dak for that. But I will say that the Cowboys, from a play by play perspective, as far as the offense goes, listen to these numbers right here: 23 first downs. The Bears only had 19. Fourth down efficiency, 2 of 3. Bears 1 of 1, of course. Total plays, 67. Sacks allowed, 2. Now, one of those was a gruesome sack you could not have from Tyler Guyton. Penalties, only 4 for 25. That's amongst the entire team. Fumbles lost, which this is the big one that kind of started the downfall, is this Williams fumble along the sideline. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that Terrence Steele, if he just continues to run, then that allows Williams to run and not have to slow down and eventually get the ball snatched from him from behind. I'm not going to be super critical over Terrence Steele. I think that was just a strange play, and I think that Williams just anticipated that he could just kind of walk out of bounds. But that did snowball into the turnover issue. The Cowboys had 4 turnovers to the Bears 0. When you lose the turnover battle by even 1 or 2, you have a bad chance of winning the game. When you get 4-0'd, that's horrible chances. Now, of course, the fumble is kind of just a weird, kind of a bang bang play. One of the interceptions, not Dak's fault at all. It just happens to be a drop, which I will say the drops need to end starting this next week. No more drops. Like, I can deal with the crap players on our team having drops, whatever. But CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, you can't have drops. I'm sorry. We're not a good enough football team on the defensive side to make up for those things. You have to be damn near perfect from an offensive perspective in order to allow us to do what we need to do. Obviously, 396 total yards. I don't know if I went over this, but 385 for the Bears, 275 passing yards for the Cowboys, 298 for the Bears, 121 rushing yards, and 87 for the Bears. And I will say this, Javonte Williams had 10 rushes for 76 yards. That's a 7.6 average. He was running the ball very, very effectively. It's just that we got behind so far that we couldn't do what we wanted to do and run the ball. So that's a very big thing that's just unfortunate. Now, another thing about this, and let me kind of get back up here on the play-by-play. The Dallas Cowboys went Right here. So the touchdown, the Romo Dunze touchdown, and we put ourselves in the hole 7 points right there. I think the next time we got the ball and we were driving, it was like a 4th and 2 or something like that. And it eventually ends in a Brandon Aubrey 53-yard field goal. I said it then, and I'm definitely saying it now. We should have went for it. That team was not stopping us early on. They couldn't stop the run. They probably would have worried too much about the run in order for us to not get that fourth down conversion. We really needed that. If you could have made the game 7-7, that would have been so much better. Then the big play from Burden coming after that, the 65-yard bomb, doesn't hurt you nearly as much because it's 7-14. Then you go down there, you get the other field goal from 33 yards out. It's 10-14. Then you come back and you take the lead. Then 17-13 or 14. Sorry. And then the halftime thing. There's too many instances where we just have bad clock management. Dak and Turpin right there. So Turpin on the return very easily could have just let that roll into the end zone where, you get the touchback. And make sure it goes out of the back of the end zone, of course. But and then Dak just jogging out and then taking that dump off that kills the entire clock. Those are the things that we can't do when you have a field goal kicker like Brandon Aubrey. You've got to be in control of the clock and understanding of where he is. Derpy Entertainment says, so is Dak the answer still? Long story short, Derpy, I you can't call him the answer if he has never gotten you to the place that says that he is the answer. Now, I will say, based on CeeDee Lamb being out and we're not factoring in kickers, Dak is your best player on your team. And I don't think that that's anything to scoff at. When your second best player is your quarterback, you probably like your chances at making a run. However, Matt Eberflus, this defense, and I'm not even just putting it all on Matt Eberflus because I know some people were critical of me because I said some critical things about Matt Eberflus and I wasn't pointing blame at the players, but both of those are abysmal. Talk about Mike Nolan a few years ago. This is probably worse because not only are we just getting kicked in the buns, but we're also inflicting these hits on ourselves. You know what I mean? How many times did they have a wide open touchdown catch? Cole Kmet had one. DJ Moore had one. Um, why am I forgetting? Romo Dunze had one, and Luther Burden had one. All four of their touchdowns came from wide open receivers. And that's the matter. That's the fact of the matter of this game is they scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And every single time this team had a blown coverage, they capitalized on it. You're talking about 2 straight weeks of career games for the opposing quarterback. Derpy, not a Cowboys fan, but I do feel for you because I respect your organization. You have better QB situation than my team, but Dak can't get you there. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, Derpy, drop in your team down below so I can talk about your team a little bit if you'd like. No, fact of the matter is Dak, we've seen quarterbacks at Dak's level win Super Bowls. It comes he's not we know what Dak is. He is not a guy that is and these guys haven't won Super Bowls either, but he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not a and I'm hesitant to even say Joe Burrow really, but he's not a Mahomes and I'm even hesitant to say Mahomes right now because like sure he got them to the Super Bowl last year. But right now, I'm kind of like, he doesn't have pieces around him, and it's showing. They're 1-2, just like the Cowboys, and the only win they have is against the Giants. So now they have faced better teams. The Bears, quite frankly, the Bears are not a good team. I'm not excusing the Cowboys for losing to the Bears. However, they did have their back against the wall. 0-2. Ben Johnson had to be crafty, and he was crafty. He knows how to exploit this Cowboys defense because he's done it with the Lions. And that's not an excuse. That's just straight up my flowers giving to Ben Johnson. Um, Realistically, so here's Derpy with his talk. Yeah, Steelers unfortunately have to deal with Rodgers. Rodgers has looked good in stints this year for the Steelers, so no shade there. Obviously, Rodgers is over the course of his career, multiple time MVP, Super Bowl winner. Um, you can win with him even at this juncture in the Steelers because you do have a really good coach and you have presumably on paper, a much better defense than what they've kind of put out on the field thus far. But you could win, but you're dealing with that brutal AFC. So yeah, look, I'm not trying to say I'm the first person to admit, and I even said this before the season started. This Cowboys team is not Super Bowl bound. I think that they're hard pressed to find themselves in the wild card hunt, but they are playing the third place schedule, and with that you have to kind of pick and choose. Like, oh, they can win this game, they can win this game, they can play close. Hey, and then after that first week with the Eagles, I'm like, hey, now, the Eagles are notorious for letting people stay in it, but I had some hope with how we actually shut down the Eagles pass catchers. And I mean, it was just Jalen Hurts that beat us on the ground, not spying him well enough, is why you lose week one, and then CeeDee Lamb drop into passes. That's the difference between 2-1 and 1-2 right now. And realistically, I mean, like I've already mentioned, the turnovers are a big deal, but also this bad defense, man, it's bad. I'll be real, until Jerry is gone, you're going to be stuck like the Steelers with Tomlin. I agree with you, man. This organization, I had a tweet, and I could probably pull up this tweet actually. Let me find it really quickly. Skip that. Let's see if I can find this tweet. Um, okay, got that up. Let me pull it up on the screen now. Share screen. All right. Pull this up really quickly. Okay, so this is a tweet that I had, and it says specifically the Cowboys use their heaviest DN to spy quarterbacks, their worst cover safety to cover wide receivers downfield, their worst linebacker to cover tight ends and running backs, use their best offensive weapon in wide receiver one as a running back, and worst of all, they use their security guard as a defensive coordinator. Wait, maybe I have that one wrong, but it sure as hell feels like it anyways. And then somebody down here made a great point. They said, and their owner as a GM. Yeah, that part too. Yeah, Jerry needs to. I've said this for years, and it's not going to happen. But I'll say it again once more for the record. Jerry needs to step down from the GM position and be a strictly an owner. He's not going to do it, but that's how Jerry operates, and we can't do anything about it. This show has kind of went into a organizational talk. I do want to get back into the Bears though. This is 2 straight weeks. So you've had um, career games for Russell Wilson and for Caleb Williams now, and I'll say this, like, you've got another thing coming if you honestly think that you can compete with the Packers. And I know they just lost to the Browns. They're going to be hungry as ever coming in here, fighting for Micah. Micah's going to be hungry as ever coming in here, playing the team that said, you know what, we're not paying you that. And we're actually going to ship you out for probably less than we should have gotten just to get you out of the building. And so there's going to be motivation from that Packers team. Now, here's where you let the rubber meet the road. Do you say we have every right to, kind of bow down in this fight? We don't have Cooper Beebe, we don't have CeeDee Lamb, we don't have Tyler Booker, still don't have Overshown. Diggs, who knows if he plays? Bland, who knows if he plays? That's presumably 5-6 starters that you're missing right there from your team, and you're not even, a quarter of the way into the season. But I will say this, man, y you this is where you turn your season around. If you legitimately want to show the world This team is not going down without a fight. You go or you don't go. You have the Packers come into your house and you don't let them out without, whooping them and putting the rest of the world on notice that, hey, w- you know, uh, we we can absolutely lose when we're not prepared to the Bears, but we're also good enough to stand up and face some adversity and beat a team like the Packers that a lot of people have already pegged as kind of the Super Bowl favorites for the NFC. So, it starts with number 4. Really, really does. George Pickens, you got to be better. You got to catch the ball. Jake Ferguson, 13 receptions, 82 yards. We got to find him a way into the end zone. It's been 2 seasons now since Jake Ferguson has had a touchdown. You got top 10 money, man. You got to get in the end zone. Javonte Williams, you got to run hard, run nasty, run it straight in the teeth of that defense, and just show you're imposing your will on that team. We'll get more into the Packers stuff later, but I do want to bring up just general this defense, what we need to do to get it solved. CJ Gardner Johnson just got released by the Texans. I don't know the antics behind that. I don't know the reason for it, but I'm going to tell you this. He's better than Donovan Wilson. He is better than Donovan Wilson. He's probably better than Malik Hooker right now. Hooker gave up 2 touchdowns. Dono gave up 2 touchdowns. The game before that, he gave up 2 touchdowns. So it's the safeties are a big problem. Now, as much as we've talked about the corners and Diggs, you know, uh, he tries to lunge in with that outside arm. That's not how you do that. I don't know who taught him that. That's one of the reasons why I was kind of sad that we lost Al Harris in the offseason. But if you're gonna extend and try to jam at the line, you extend that with your inside hand, forcing him outside so you can squeeze that route. That's not what he did. Beside me, he slipped, whatever. He gives up the big play. Okay, sure. D- Diggs is better than the guys we have behind him. Now, I don't know if 70% Diggs is better than the guys we have behind him. We need to figure out if he's fully healthy or not because he was a game time decision. This pass rush, 3 pass rushers, 0 pressure, 0 win rates, 0% win rate on the Bears this last game. Can't have it. I mean, you cannot have that in your edge rotation after you getting rid of Micah Parsons. Find a way. I know Jadeveon Clowney didn't play, but find a way to manufacture pressures. Matt Eberflus, you gotta do something, man. I really don't care if you feel like you don't have the players. You know who's the guy who doesn't always have the players, but still puts out continually good defenses? That guy in Kansas City, that guy in Minnesota. They now for sure they have their stars on those defenses, and I'm not trying to say that they don't. And while especially with the Cowboys don't right now, but they do it. Kenny Clark, Osa Odigizua, say what you want, solid interior defensive tackles. Bland when he gets back, solid former All Pro. Diggs if he's 100% healthy, and you give him that leash where it's like, hey, we want you to bet on these balls. We understand that the back end's gonna give up, and that's where you have to have a good safety in the back to kind of cover some of those deficiencies with Diggs and Bland. Is say, listen, guys, we know what our defense is. It's not very good, and so how to counter react to that? Go get us some turnovers. And thus far, they have not done that, and it's been bad. Um, I can't even remember if we have created a turnover yet. Throughout, I mean, of course, the late end Russell Wilson interception, of course, like okay, sure, a heave one, but I'm talking about like a legitimate middle of the game kind of interception or fumble or anything. I don't think that we have. So you got to figure out a way to get your defense involved in kind of head hunting and ball hunting and figuring out how to get turnovers at least. If you can get this team, this offense short fields, that's what helps you out, not allowing the other opposing offense to march down the field for 9 minutes on a drive and keeping your offense off the field. That's the worst thing that you can do. So I'd almost rather you'd get beat instantly on a huge play like the Luther Burden one than sit there and allow them to march all the way down the field. Um, and get a touchdown like they did on one of those drives where it was damn near 10 minutes. Um, but yeah, I mean, the the Cowboys need to be, and this is the big one is right here. Third down efficiency, 3 of 11. 3 of 11. And I know the Cowboys didn't get to run the ball a whole lot because they were behind the 8 ball. But that has to be fixed, and you cannot win games in the NFL if you can't convert on third down. Now, if you're like the Eagles and you're like, "Hey, I don't give a crap. We're gonna go for it on fourth down anyways." Sure, you get that extra down, but you've gotta live with the opposing team probably marching down the field and scoring a touchdown off of that because your defense is that bad. Um, so figure out the third down stuff, and you're gonna try to Band-Aid up this offensive line. You've lost Tyler Booker now, in addition to the Cooper Beebe, injury that you were already dealing with. So you've got some work to do. You're facing a daunting task in the, Packers and all of the guys they can throw at you there. Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, um, Wyatt, and, all those other guys. They have stud linebackers as well. So, um, you're asking Dak to be Superman again. Now, figure out what you gotta do to get Dak those easy manufactured, quick hitters to get him in rhythm and then let him go and do what he does. You've gotta be willing to tell Dak, "Listen, hey, we need this game. Use your legs. You know, you can use the keepers. You can get out there and get us some first downs when we need them, because 3 and outs, putting our defense back on the field is not gonna win us the game." You got the home field advantage. Now, I've been to AT&T Stadium many, many, many times. Not the greatest home field advantage. I've been on record saying that a few different times, but you've got the home field advantage. At least you don't have to go to Lambeau, right? Um, so hopefully you can at least stay competitive, and maybe just maybe you can steal a game from the Packers and push them back down to 2-2. The reason why you couldn't lose to the Bears is because you've already lost to the Eagles, NFC and interdivision. Now you've dropped the Bears, NFC. That's huge. And then if you lose versus the Packers, NFC loss again. Those are the things that are the tiebreakers when it comes down to wild card spots and making the playoffs. And realistically, if the Eagles would have lost this week, you could have been like, okay, hey, we can breathe a little bit because the Eagles aren't 2 games out ahead of us within 3 games, the first 3 games. Um, but they're 3-0. And your division title chances or hopes, I always say prayer, honestly, because I didn't even think that that was ever a chance or a possibility for us to get the division title this year, has dwindled so far in these first 3 weeks because of this loss. And realistically, I know a lot of people want to clown on the Cowboys and say they're 64 yards away from being 0-3, and that's the truth. I mean, this defense was so bad you almost lost to the Giants, which you never lose to. So that should tell you what you got to do to figure some things out. Now, Brian Schottenheimer, I'll give him credit. He's come out on the pressers and said, "Hey, we're going to look at changing some things around. We're going to look at, um, you know, doing the necessary things to um, get our scheme figured out, because whatever that it was, if it was the standard, that's not the standard any longer," is basically what he said. And I know I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but um, you can't have that. And I think that he understands they got to have some things change. Starts with the defense, really, and I expect a little bit of hiccups. I expect some more pressures than we probably would have seen if we did have Cooper Beebe and we did have Tyler Booker, but we don't. And right now, the biggest problem isn't even from the interior; it's from it's from the tackles positions. Tyler Guyton whiffed huge on a play that we needed, where Dak got sacked, killed a drive. Um, Tyler. I almost want to call all of them Tylers because they all seem like they should be Tylers because we already have 3 of them on the offensive line. But Terrence Steele, bad. He's been bad in pass pro. Now, he does make up for it in run blocking. He's been pretty good in that area. But overall, we've got to figure out a way to kind of mask those problems on on the edges. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, short show tonight. I really just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about what it took, um, or not what it took, but what the biggest problems were, because it ultimately comes down to four massive plays for the Bears, or massive, not even massive plays, four blown coverages by the Cowboys, and four turnovers. And I know one of them's in garbage time, so I'm not. Or actually, two of them are in garbage time, but two of them came when the game was very much still in doubt for the Bears. So you got to figure that out. You can't have you cannot have turnovers when your defense is this bad. You cannot have turnovers. So got to figure that out to beat the Packers legitimately. I'm going to tell you what you got to do, and I'm going to make it quick. You have to limit their pass rush, and you have to give Dak time in the pocket to throw and find Ferguson, find George Pickens, and I hope and pray it's not Tolbert out there and they just roll out um Flournoy, or um you know hell, even Trayshawn Holden getting called up. Somebody like that. Don't give me any more Jalen Tolbert, please, for the love of God. Finding those guys though, and then limiting what the Packers can do. If you can't get pressure, confuse the hell out of him on the back end. And that doesn't start with Donovan Wilson. That starts with playing guys you're not accustomed to playing with. Maurice Luafau, get him in the game. Wanye Thomas, get him in the game. Um, James Houston on some more, and I know he was bad against the Bears. Get him in the game. Jadeveon Clowney, get him in the game. Deron Bland, I hope and pray that he plays this week. Diggs, if he's not 100%, I would err on, hey, let's sit you down for a little bit while you're rehabbing still. And then ultimately, you know what? If you have to find yourself um in this area where you're down 20-0 and it's halftime or something like that, I tell Dak, hey, let's say that you have the ball coming out of half, you got one drive, put together something, or legitimately we can't keep you in the game any longer, because if we lose you, we lose our entire season. And after the Packers, you've got two pretty easy games. Now I say easy on paper. You might look, you might let the Jets, and who's the other one? The Jets and the Panthers look great. Who knows? But you do have the Jets, Panthers, Commanders. Okay, we'll see what's happening with them. Broncos, that's going to be a really tough defense. Cardinals, haven't been very good. I know that they're 2-1, but realistically haven't been very good. Raiders, not scared of them. Eagles again. Hopefully you can split with them. Chiefs, and this is on the short week as well, mind you. Um, Chiefs are probably going to have their stuff together. They're going to have Rashee Rice back. They're going to have Worthy back. Probably a loss, just being real. Lions, probably a loss, just being real. Vikings, probably a loss, just being real. Chargers, with how they're playing, probably a lot. So, like, you could have potentially 5 losses in a row here. So, if you're not beating the teams you should, and that started with the Bears, you should have beat them. But if you're not stealing one from the Packers, beating the Jets, burying the Panthers, stealing one against the Commanders, beating the Broncos, and going like a little mini run right here, it's going to be really hard when you get down to these games. Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings. Vikings are just like a possible. Chargers, a possible, you know what I mean? But there's no gimmies past the Raiders. Then you have Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants at the like. Sure, Giants are a gimme if they're already punted on their season, whatever. Who knows? Injuries are always happen. But the outlook for this team is not great, and I'm just being real. Um, we'll see what happens with you know these next few games, but It's gonna be hard, it's gonna take grit, and it's gonna take this entire team saying, "Listen, on paper, our defense leaves a lot to be desired. On paper, without CeeDee Lamb, without Tyler Booker, without Cooper Beebe, our offense could be shaky. But on the field, we're gonna give it our all. We're gonna leave every single thing out there because we know there's probably a lot of change coming after this season. Realistically, there's probably not a lot of guys that are gonna stick around on this team if we don't get things figured out. Um, and you catalyze that a little bit, you get your guys rolling a little bit more, and you could go on a run maybe. But anyways, that is it for EJ Savage here, at Boys in the Zone. I really do appreciate you guys jumping in. This is, like I said, this is kind of like a impromptu show, kind of not really a whole lot of planned out show and what I wanted to talk about, but um, I always have fun getting on here and chatting it up. If you could leave a like, comment, share it. I mean, realistically, probably not my best show to share. Um, but it's fun. It's a joy for me to get on here. And next week, I will make sure that I have a better show for you guys prepared, and I'll have a guest here probably, and we can talk about how the Cowboys shocked the world and beat the Packers, or Cowboys fall to 1-3. I really hope it's the first one and not the latter, but we will see. Anyways, peace out. Catch you next week.